Well, hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, probably without too much makeup left, and probably looking a little bit tired. I'm on my way back from a leadership weekend with a whole bunch of wonderful young people. If you'd like to hear more about what I talked about and the impact, that's coming right up. Well, hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and this is my room for the night. And I've got this whole cabin. Bathrooms, living room. I presume there are cabins up there and more rooms downstairs. But this is all mine. This is so cute. This is a 3D printed thing.
That is amazing.
Oh, the kid in me loves it.
I did the skill.
Hey everybody, this is DearMamaSal talking about love, life and other problems. And this weekend I just spent with a group of wonderful young people at a Rotary event called, it's Rotary Youth in Action. Right, yeah. Anyway, so just amazing group of people, and I officially thought I would, just go in the night before to get an idea of what I wanted to do with my speech, and then probably, go home. But I must admit that I ended up doing the speech and staying. The reason I stayed is because of something that happened during those first 24 hours. As a speaker, one of the things I've always believed in is it is more important to do what the audience need than to give the perfect speech. And in talking to the participants just casually in the hours before, after I arrived, during a meal, and then the opening, and then another meal, some events. But all the time I'm talking to different people and I'm getting different input about why they're there, their concerns are, why they would give up a weekend of their life. And the amazing thing is that by the time I'd heard all of that, I went to the organizer and said, okay, fine, I know you brought me in to do a rah-rah-rah speech, but I don't think it's what they need. And luckily that organizer is somebody who's known me for many, many, many years, my friend Patty. And she just smiled and said, and I said, I need to change the speech if you would allow me to, but I don't want to do it without your permission because it is your event. And she said, Sal, whatever you know you need to do, you do it. So I said, okay, thank you. And it was strange because I started off talking about the fact that I never really did fit in very well early on in my life. I was ESL, English as a Second Language, and I had a big mouth and opinions, and I had a few personality traits that were interesting, and just all the time I painted the picture about how I didn't quite fit in, and I wasn't sort of normal, and how throughout my school I had always been little on the outside of things, but yet leading. It was interesting to me that during my school life, when I was in boarding school, I was not necessarily academically brilliant, and it took me until I was almost finished school to find out that I actually was short-sighted. I had sat all my life at sort of the back of the class. I think I was 15 before I found out I actually couldn't see. Think about that. Think about how much stuff when you are learning is on a blackboard, and for some reason I never worked out that I couldn't see properly. Amazing. Never mind. But what I was explaining to all the young people was, as usual in life, one compensates. It wasn't that I was stupid in class, I just wasn't top grade. But I was first team absolutely everything in sports. And how, actually to be fair, and also pretty powerful obviously in drama, how I had always done sort of all the field, the winter sports, lacrosse and sort of field hockey, things like that. But I'd never done athletics, all the summer sports. I always sort of, I don't know, I never saw myself as somebody who was a runner of any sort. And then one year, my physical education teacher said, I want you to be in the trials for the athletics team. And I said, well, you know, I don't run. And she said, yes, you do. And I said, no, I never have. And she said, well, you do. You know, you run on the hockey field and you run on the lacrosse field. Well, I always played the last defensive position before goal. I was very much a person that the whole team could let you down, but you'd have to get past Sal, you know. And you know that wasn't easy. So I'd never seen myself as a runner. And so it came for the trials for the interprovincial whatever. No, first of all, for the athletics team. You know, the first thing they did was have a 100-meter dash, which is fine because all my schoolmates pitched up with their very fancy clothes and their fancy cleats and, you know, proper running shoes, all those sort of things. And I'm standing there with my my hockey shorts and my hockey boots, not built for running great distances at great speed. And I looked like a raving idiot. Anyway, yeah, they said ready, steady, go, and I went. And by the way, I was running away, you know, I was doing quite well, and about halfway up, about 50 yards in, I realized I'm running on my own, which was, you know, not what I wanted to be doing necessarily. So what I did was I sort of turned around and started talking to the other guys that were running. Which apparently is not what you're meant to do. And so I did actually cross the line first, but not by the distance that I should have done had I continued to focus on the goal at hand, which was actually to run, not chit-chat on my way there. So I ended up on the athletics team, and the reason I tell the story is because I ended up doing hurdles and javelin and all sorts of things, as well as the relay race and stuff like that. But here was the funny thing. The funny thing was that we get into the interprovincial or the interstate, depending, you know, how you say those things in your country. But we get into the sort of regional finals, and we're doing really well. And then the physical education teacher says to me, or gym teacher, whatever you like to call them, she says to the group, okay, now we're doing really well, but we got a bit of a challenge. And we're going, what's that? And she said, we actually can win this thing if we get placed in just one event, one more. And we're going, but we've done all our events, so that's a pity, you know, we're going. And she said, no, you don't understand. There is one more event. And what I found out is they've only got 2 people entered into it. And we sort of went, and she said, well, if we could get somebody into that event and they could get second even, they don't even have to come first, if they could get second, because they will actually count 2 out of 3, you know, we'd actually win. So we went, what's the event? And they said, shot put. And we were all looking at each other going, shot put? Well, quite honestly, we had no idea what that was. And then, you know, the obvious happened, which was she looked around and she went, hey, Sal. And I'm going, yep. You know, we want to voluntold you. And I said, what? She said, well, it's like volunteering, but I'm telling you to do it. Voluntold. And I said, what, to do this event that I don't know anything about? And she said, yeah, but come with me and I'll show you how it works. You know, I'll let you watch somebody, because apparently there was a lead-in event. I said, what am I going to do? I'm going to watch a couple of people do it, and then you want me to, yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, really, how bad could that be? You have no idea how heavy that cannonball thing is until you actually do it. I want to tell you, it wasn't pretty. The first time I tried to do it, I nearly dropped it on my toe. I think it went all of about 10 yards, maybe 20. Not very far, let's put it that way. And everybody was laughing at me, holding it under my chin. I guess then you spin around like an idiot and hurl the thing. Anyway, so I was doing that. The second one went a whole lot better. It actually flew a bit, and nobody was more surprised than myself. But I must admit, my whole team, you know, on the other events was my cheering section, and they thought I did a great job. And they roared and clapped and did all sorts of things, which really, you know, was because they all knew I hadn't the foggiest idea what I was doing. And I can't remember, I think you got 3 tries at this thing, and I did the 3rd try. And again, it was pretty good. Not stellar, but pretty good. And so it ended up that we actually got placed 2nd. Which goes to show that sometimes you just need to participate to win. And no, I didn't come 1st, but because I came 2nd, our team won the event. Now, do you think that I was definitely considered to be a superstar that day, a leader? Did I take on the responsibility and the possibility of failure and everything else and hold it all on my shoulders for the team? Yep. Now, was I voluntold? Yep. But did I say yes to it? And the answer is, of course I did. Why not? I was used to people laughing at me. They always have. So but the whole point of the speech I was giving, which really rounded it up, was, if ever you don't feel that you fit in, if you feel that you're not normal, you're right. Because if you were normal, you would not be sitting for the whole of your weekend away from your friends and your video games and everything else, giving your whole weekend to learning more about leadership. You see, people who want to be leaders want to learn. People who want to be leaders understand that they're not normal. They want to change the world. They want to make a difference. They want to do things. And the whole reason that we run events like that is because we want to help them. To me, leadership is not a title. It's an action. It really is an action. It's not, I'm in charge of 13 people, therefore I'm the leader. No, it's about leadership. To me is getting things done with people. Leadership to me is bringing out the best in people. So what we do during the weekend, of course, is we expose them to the different personality types and how interesting it is that we all have these different types. And how, based on which type you are, you will lead differently, which of course is so obvious. But isn't it wonderful to be able to teach that to 14, 15-year-olds, that they will know that for the rest of their life. I always said that vital piece of information about the different personality types, the first time I ever got exposed to it was in my 20s, I think, and I was saying, wow, why don't they teach you this at school? It would make so much sense about why you don't get on with this person, or why this person is constantly frustrating you, or why this person wants to study and that person doesn't. It's just so really interesting to do that personality type work. And so one of the important parts about this is, wear the fact that you're not normal as a badge. I have never wanted to be normal. Never been on my list of, I wish I were just normal. Can't say that's ever been really something that I wanted in my life. I always wanted a little bit more. I wanted to help a bit more. I wanted to make things different a bit more. And I was explaining to them that I did incredible things. I mean, I realize now that I really did do incredible things, and I was always trying to learn more. By the way, during the event, I saw something going on, which was there were a whole lot of young people shooting hoops. And I know it sounds strange, but in all my 69.9 years, I've never ever shot a basket in my life. Why is that? I don't know. But there was that moment where I just said to them, could somebody teach me how to do that? And then I said it could take a while, but I'm not going to quit until I do it. And the first one, I think every bone in my spine cracked. You know, I didn't realize how much effort I would have to put into it. And I was bad. Second try, I was bad. In the opposite direction. Third try, I was too low. Fourth try, too high. Fifth try, bounced it off the rim. Sixth try, bounced it off the rim again. Other side. But I believe it was on the seventh try that I dunked it straight in. And I don't know who was more excited, Sal or the participants. It was such fun.